what have been the most surprising things that you've found just throughout this whole process, from your I guess even asking questions around kids and development and their own ways that they engage in, say, something like risky play or kind of moving forward with boundaries. I know you studied and your thesis was on risky play from what we've spoken about before. Do you want to tell our audience a little bit about that?
Sure. So risky play is categorized, there's 6 categories of risky play. So there's height, which would be like climbing a tree or dangling from the monkey bars. There's speed, so flying down on the billy cart or skateboard or your bike. Elements, which is being around water and fire, like a fire pit or a swimming pool. You've got tools, which would be hammer and nails. It could even be, you know, in a 2-year-old sense, it would be a very pointy stick. Look out, they're going to poke someone's eye out with that. And then you've got rough and tumble play, which is especially important for boys' development. But, you know, just that roughing each other up and rolling around and even dad coming home and throwing you high in the air after, you know, you've had dinner and please don't vomit on me. That sort of, you know, rough and tumble stuff. But also, and then the last one, or one of the 6, is being out of sight. So that the knowing that you're on your own, whether that's in, you know, you're in a bedroom with the door shut and you're just by yourself, or you're walking down to the milk bar for the first time without anybody with you, hiding in a cubby house playing hide and seek. You know, just who am I in the world on my own? There's no one watching me right now if I got in trouble. So those sorts of internal, what's developed internally when you go through those sorts of things is learning your own capability, trusting your instincts, testing your ability to, your physical ability, but also, you know, inner strength to how close can I get to this? How hot is that? How close is the edge? You know, just learning yourself in the real world and not an artificial world. It's really important. Nature is being lost, you know, especially with artificial setups in, say, early learning centres. For example, early learning centres in the yard, it's just flat, you know, like outside, and there's children growing up on flat ground. So let's say they're full-time childcare children and they're spending 10 hours a day on flat ground while their feet are developing. There's this phenomenon of children just falling over their own feet for no reason. And it's because they're not walking on little dips and hills and, you know, just the normal way that grass is and land is. They're just in this artificial world. And people, my sister works for the NDIS, who give out funding for children with issues, you know, disabilities or special needs or just a whole range of things. And children are just tripping over their own feet, and they were thinking that it might be their eyesight, but it's actually just an inability of spatial awareness and depth perception. And you can see this in kinder as well, when you ask children to come and sit on the mat and we're going to do a story time, a child would just come and sit on top of another child. They didn't even realize they were there. It's just this unbelievable thing that we're not growing up with normal just abilities to recognize depth, shadow. You know, we've always got the iPhone or the iPad in our face, children in prams, which I was saying on Matt's show is not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to read traffic 4 cars ahead when you're an 18-year-old if you've had your face in a screen for your whole life and things like that. So just being in the natural world and understanding it as much as possible is really important. So with these lockdowns and taking away playgrounds, that was the thing that really got my goat. And I'm not like worried about saying it all. I went and ripped down all of the tape off the playgrounds because that was the thing that just got me. I thought, you've taken away their socialization, you've taken away school, you've taken away routine, normalizing, you've taken away, you know, parents who probably didn't have depression and now they do, and now they're worrying about paying the bills, and then you're going to take away a swing set as well. You know, I just, yeah, it infuriated me. So
Mm.
it's really the lockdown. Yeah, it's going to affect children in lots of different ways. And like I said, I can't know. It's going to be interesting to look back. But even children now that I've known, two children across the road from me, both of them have been born in lockdown, and they've never known life without people wearing masks. I mean, when they see my face without a mask on, they almost just stare at me like I'm some sort of alien. Yeah, or there's a child down the street further than me who's always been very social and now hides behind mum and dad when people walk past because we're allowed out again, and he doesn't know how to navigate, normal interaction of people. Or the mother was even telling me going down to Woolworths just to do some shopping. It was overstimulating for him. So yeah, a language development, seeing people's face move instead of behind the mask. There's going to be a whole range of things coming up in the future.
On that point, I notice I've got to be careful how I kind of phrase this one, because there's an interesting. I'm cautious about not advising people to go around and break laws, but then I'm also, there's another part of me that's like, well, evil laws. What's the most moral thing to do in those situations? And so what I've noticed is that children whose parents would follow every single rule and every single guideline, they're the ones that have experienced their children being the most impacted. Whereas, for example, my children, we did everything, it wasn't, and I noticed that even though they were affected, they were nowhere near as affected as other people were afterwards. And they were very social. When we went down to our parks, you would still see probably still about 10, or let's use the 20% principle that you talked about. 20% of the capacity of that playground is still there. It's still full. You've still got kids playing in the playground, and I very purposely made sure that this was something that my children do not miss out on, just because of what was happening at the time.